But how that text is presented is really important. There was a review in 1968 of the Harvard University Press, again, not Oxford, the Harvard University Press edition of the Journals of Emerson, a very important figure, a transcendental figure in 19th century America. It's all the history we really have. And there was a review that said, the editors of Emerson's journals have done him the highest possible homage. They have printed him in an edition which is absolutely unreadable because the scholarly apparatus intruded to such an extent upon the text that Emerson himself wrote. So again, how does one reverence history, understand it, make these critical judgments, do the kind of historical recovery or archaeology that is required, and then present the text in such a way that it is legible and enjoyable for readers. And then, of course, that then becomes the basis of historical scholarship or literary interpretation or philosophical argument, depending upon what the text is. Is everybody with me? Yeah? So, in this university, scholarly editions have mattered for a very long time. And modern textual scholarship really started to come about around the first decade or so of the 20th century. A man named Sir W.W. Gregg really got it going. But textual scholarship goes way, way back to the Middle Ages. How many manuscripts, how many distinct manuscript recensions of, let's say, Ovid's Metamorphoses do you think that there are in Europe? 500. How many different manuscripts of the New Testament do you think that there are? Early manuscripts of the New Testament, do you think that there are? Early-ish. 5,000. So many of you will know the story of the woman caught in adultery in the very last verse of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of John and the first 11 verses of the 8th chapter. You know, when Jesus says, let the one among you who is without sin cast the first stone, and they go away. That pericope, that little story, is in none of the early Greek manuscripts. It's not in the Codex Sinaiticus, it's not in the Codex Vaticanus, it's in no early Greek manuscript. It's in 17 of the 23 early Latin manuscripts, so don't worry. But obviously there's a kind of a tradition in the church that has a Gospel of John that does not have that. And there's another textual transmission that does have it. Well, does it belong in the Bible? Well, eventually St. Jerome, editing the Vulgate text, did his textual criticism, creating a kind of a scholarly edition, not full of textual variants, and decided that yes, in fact, it belonged. So you see, this can matter in all sorts of ways. So the science of textual studies kind of developed in trying to settle what the true text of the classics is, different classical authors, and then eventually what the true text of the Bible would be in its multiple transmissions. But here in Oxford, scholarly editions from the press first began to appear in the first decade of bona fide advanced scholarly editions in the first decade or two of the 20th century. Oxford Scholarly Editions Online is an attempt to take, as it were, that last 100 years of textual scholarship, hundreds and hundreds of editions, and to find a way to make them available to scholars both as individual works and as corpora that can be searched in as bodies of works.